Lighting is life. It is an art, it is a science, it is whatever you wish to make it. It depends on what you wish to do with it. To me, I'm dedicated to it. But I'm dedicated to a lot of things. Because if you're only dedicated to one thing, you will never do well in everything. If you're dedicated to a lot of things, you will do much better because it broadens the way you think. And that is the basic thing you have to do. Have an open mind. Have no prejudice. Take everything from square one. It makes life so much richer. When I was in grammar school, my parents started to indoctrinate me. They wanted me to grow up to be a lawyer, a doctor, or at least a CPA. And I listened to them because I was a good child. That didn't mean I did what they said, but I listened. When I was in grammar school, I loved the theater. I was in every play from kindergarten till I went to high school. I also loved art. I could draw, and I loved to draw. I would paint and do everything. So between the theater and the drawing, I was having a good time. I never really worried about being a lawyer, a doctor, or at least a CPA. But I could hear it all the time. When I got to high school, went through the same routine. When I was going to high school, I was saying to my grammar school teachers, I think I would like to go to a specialty school dealing with art. And two of my teachers said, no, you are too smart. You're going to get a standard academic education. But because of your talent in art and theater, we're going to send you to a special high school where they have a great art program and a great theater program. I said, where is that? They said, it's in Coney Island. I said, that's way out of my district. How will I go there? They said, we will get you in. Leave it to us.
How far away was Coney Island from the district that you were in at the time?
Miles.
And in New York, 1 mile can be a long way.
Yeah, this was miles. But that didn't matter. They got me into that high school. I didn't really appreciate, what they had done. My parents, listened. We moved to the United States when I was 9 years old, coming from Canada. Now, the Canadian education system is different than the American one. And when I came here as a 9-year-old, I was going into 6th grade because that's the grade I could handle. Well, the school was not too pleased about putting a 9-year-old into 6th grade, so they talked my parents into putting me into 5th grade, which was a good idea as it happened. And it was a blessing that these two teachers, I'll never forget them, because they made a significant change in my life. It was Mrs. D.C. Pape and a wonderful teacher, Catherine Grayson. I'll never forget them, because putting me into 5th grade and sending me to Lincoln High School in Coney Island was a blessing. Why? Because the theater teacher at Lincoln High School was a Gustav Bloom. Gustav Bloom was a famous theater director. He was put there as part of the WPA program of Franklin Delano Roosevelt to teach underprivileged children about theater. The art teacher was Leon Friend. Leon Friend was a famous artist. He was also a Franklin Delano Roosevelt WPA appointee to teach in this area because it was an underprivileged area, and this would give students who would never really get this kind of an opportunity to benefit. Leon Friend was an amazing teacher. He could point out little things on your drawing that you might not have seen. This really improved your ability to see. One of the things that Leon just engraved in my brain was every now and again he would get up in front of the class and say, "In front of you is a blank piece of paper. That's the opportunity for a work of art. Let's see what you can do." That stuck with me forever. Every time I get a new job, I look at this blank piece of paper and said, "This is an opportunity for a work of art. Let's see what you can do." I've done hundreds and hundreds of projects. Every time a new project comes on, it's an opportunity for me to create a work of art. Everything I do is based on that simple statement by Leon. In front of you is a blank piece of paper. It's the opportunity for a work of art. Let's see what you can do. When I got to the high school, it was interesting because there was a tennis team. And when I went to the tennis courts to play at the club that my father played at, the high school tennis team was there. So I had a special program. I had theater, I had art, and I had tennis. It was amazing to me. It was a very wonderful adventure going to high school. I finished high school in about 3 years. I managed to zip through that pretty easily. And so I got to college a little too young. And starting out with the indoctrination of my parents of being a lawyer, a doctor, or at least a CPA, soon proved to be totally boring. So I immediately transferred to a theater major. Now I was at home. However, I was only 16 years old. All these college students were so sophisticated to me, and I was intimidated. But I didn't quit. I went back, and I said to myself, if you don't do something in this theater, you won't get anywhere. So just do something. So I went to the next meeting of the theater department thing, and I'm listening as they were saying, we need people to do this, we need people to do that. And finally they said, if you don't do something, raise your hand. At some point, you're going to go through another whole sequence. Somebody said, we need somebody to work on the lighting. I said, I'll do that. And I didn't know anything about that much, What did I know? Next to nothing. And so I was an assistant. And they had a couple of guys who were really quite good at it. They were the Crancer brothers. And I latched onto them. And they were, we were putting the lights here, putting the lights there, and I was watching all of this stuff take shape. And I was saying, then I got immediately, what else did I have to do? I was too young to really think about much. So I was getting all the books. A Method of Lighting the Stage, Selden and Selman. I'm reading all about all this stuff, looking at all of the things that were being developed. There was no real computer at the time. And so I was learning all this very basic stuff. And it was just like a whole new world that was opening up to me as I was working on the lighting for these shows. And one of those college, by now I was getting to be fairly decent at it, so they allowed me to light one of the little special minor productions. So I did the lighting for a minor production. And in my enthusiasm for doing a special thing in this little experimental theater, there was not enough variety of opportunity in that little theater to do much. So I thought about it. Now, this experimental theater was directly below the main theater, the floor above. So being unafraid, I ran cables from the main theater down through the ducts into the experimental theater, and I took some of the extra equipment and I lit the show. And it was really, different. They'd never seen a show like this in that little theater before. Sitting in the audience was this tall gentleman who evidently was some sort of a theater buff. Mm-hmm. And he's looking around there. He's never seen anything like this before. So he asked, "Who did that?" They pointed at me. He came over and said, "This is something you did. It's very good. It's excellent." And I had to go and see how you did it. And I noticed that you ran cables from the main theater down here and got all this extra equipment. And that's how it came out to be so good. I am the head of the theater. I'm the head of the college buildings and grounds. When this show is over, you remove all of this stuff, put it all back the way you found it. And if you ever do that again, I'll have you thrown out of school.
How was that for motivation? You were, what, 16, 17 years old at that point?
Didn't faze me at all. I just did exactly what he said. But it got my attention. Yeah. He said he'd throw me out to get me thrown out of school. That got my attention because I couldn't get thrown out of school. He said at the end of the semester, he said, "When you come back, there will be a graduate student coming to study at the college here to help, with the theater department, and you will have somebody else to work with. So this will be fun for you." I thought that was really great. So I show up. Start of my sophomore year. And I go into the theater department to meet the new graduate student from one of the better universities. And who is there but the superintendent of buildings and grounds? Well, I'm going, "Oh my God, I didn't do anything. What's he doing here?" He said, "We've been thinking about, this position that we have available. And we interviewed all these college students, this and that. And we thought that your work as a freshman was so intriguing that if you will take this responsibility, we will give you the job." To me, this was the blessing of my life. Here's a chance for me to actually have some responsibility. And I said, "Of course I will do this." And so I actually got a teaching assistantship, got paid to take this job as a sophomore. It was astounding in New York because Brooklyn College was building this theater, and I was helping supervise the inspections of the work that the contractors were doing. And this superintendent had just gave me that job. That was inspiring. It was an opportunity. How could you turn an opportunity like that down? So you capitalize on these things. And as you get these opportunities, if you do them, you grow. That's how you grow. And if you are only doing one thing, that's limiting. In the theater, you're doing many things, which is very expanding. And it's making you search different things, because each play has a different set of circumstances that you're looking to fulfill. And you're trying to find ways to do that. And as long as you've got an open mind, you're in good shape. So, in my sophomore year, I began to do other things. I got to do major productions. And that was a whole new level of challenge. Getting to do a show. And in it I had this idea of doing projected scenery. So I'm doing research on projections, this, that, the other thing, and I'm trying to do it. And there's no answer to what I wish to do. So I thought, wow, what am I going to do now? And none of the teachers could help me either. So I said, I know what I'll do. I'll call Stanley McCandless in this book. This guy knows it. Obviously, this guy knows everything. So I call Stanley McCandless, get him on the phone. And he said, what do you wish to do? He said, come in and see me. So I did. I went in and saw him. And he went over all this stuff. And he sent me to see somebody else. And he said, no. I thought, well, one of my teachers, William Hatch, would say, if you can think of it, the fact that you can think of it, you should be able to do it. If you can't think of it, you'll never get it done. So I thought about, I have to light this cyclorama. It's 97 feet long, 37 feet high. And I want to project scenery on this thing in one shot. How can I do that? So in my search for projections, take about 8 projectors to do it. And I wanted to do it with one, so I could think of it. So I thought about how can I make this? And there was a type of projector called a Lytei projector. I said, what I need is a super scale Lytei projector. So I figured out how big this thing had to be about as big as that desk. And I built one, and it worked. So I called Stanley McCandless and told him not to worry about it. I figured out how to do it. He said, can I see that? So I showed it to him. When time came, he said, when you get out of school, I'll give you a job. And I did. It changed my life. Because I had credentials bestowed upon me being Stanley McCandless's assistant that I did not deserve. Because I was associated with this guy who was the god of lighting at the time. And that opened all kinds of opportunities. Things that I got to do that I never ever would have had a chance to do. And I began to learn. I was absorbing stuff at a rate that I can't even imagine today.
Was there ever a point where you thought you had finished learning, you had stopped learning, or do you continue to learn all of the time?
You never stop. You never stop. And that's why you need to have a lot of different things that you do. So I'm a hunter, I'm a fisherman, I'm a tennis player, I'm this, that, the other thing. At the tennis court where my father was, there was a guy, he was a fabulous tennis player. His name was Pancho Segura. That name means anything to you. I used to hit the ball with Pancho Segura every now and again. And so I was a pretty decent young kid tennis player, Pancho Segura would say, boy, he said, if you could learn to hit the ball a little better, you run like lightning, you would be a better tennis player. And I was still learning, The idea was if you're going to do that, you have to learn to wish to excel. Anything you wish to do, if you're going to do it, really do it. Be excellent at it. You want to be a great tennis player. You know, having the opportunity to play with somebody like Pancho Segura gave you a big lift going forward. So there was a goal. You could have something to focus on. Was a hunter. The target shooter was on the college rifle team, the high school rifle team. You know, I was a fisherman. I could fly cast, I could bait cast, I could do all kinds of things. I learned to do them exceedingly well.